my plan had veered off path, and now it was almost like I had this desperation of like, how do I get back on track?
In basketball, not every path to greatness follows the NBA stage. Some journeys take a player through unforgettable college moments, overseas arenas, and lessons that go far beyond stats. Jordan Taylor's story is one of those. From Minnesota high school gyms to becoming one of the most respected point guards in Wisconsin history, Taylor built a reputation for poise, leadership, and faith under pressure. Though the NBA door didn't open, he carved out a professional career across the world while holding on to his values. Today, we revisit the steps, the setbacks, and the perspective of a player whose journey deserves to be understood in full. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. When people talk about Wisconsin basketball, your name comes up as one of the program's anchors, not just for the way you played on the floor, but the way you carried yourself. So I want this conversation to look deeper into your journey, the choices, the faith, the experiences, everything that shaped you as a basketball player and as a man. That said, man, I really appreciate you sitting with me, and thank you for allowing me to pick your brain about your journey as a basketball player. Jordan Taylor, thank you.
Man, appreciate you having me. First of all, I appreciate you having me on. I love your content, man. I love what you do. I think it's powerful and it's important for people to hear, not for us old heads just to get on and tell our stories, right? But there's value, and I think in hindsight, right? So I always wish I would have had more feedback from folks that had walked my path when I was young. So that's a big part that drives me not to.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into that. So the word journey is a very important word to me, right? What does that word mean to you? And has that word changed, like from your younger days as a basketball player to who you are today?
Great question. What it means to me now, the word journey, what it means to me now is embracing the unknown, right? Embracing like an acceptance almost, right? Where when I was younger, it was more like, no, it has to be this way, right?
Yeah.
Nice. And I guess linguistically, that's what it is. Like visually, it was when I was younger, it was this straight line. And now it's like, if it wasn't a straight line, it was like, come on, man. And now it's peace in this, right? So that's a great question. It means a lot to me too, again, because I think you, as a young player, you're almost indoctrinated into what it's supposed to be. And I think being able to understand that your adaptability is crucial. And not just saying, everybody says, oh, when adversity hits, but like understanding what that feels like. And the quicker you can get that, the better off you're going to be.
Okay. With these interviews, my goal is to get into the mind and the psyche of an elite basketball player, which you were, and where it all started all the way through, so young basketball players then that can relate, understand what it takes to do the things that you've done. So with that said, I want you to take me through the beginning stages of your journey. Who put the basketball into your hands? What made you believe you could be an elite player?
Yes, man. You got some great questions, man. You going with the...
All right, I had to be ready, man. I had to be ready for you.
Yeah. So, well, it was my dad, man. It was, I was young, and I'm from Minneapolis. So I went to Wisconsin. Everybody thinks I'm from Wisconsin. I just texted a friend the other day, like a competitor who's also a friend, but like we not that close, that texted about the Vikings game. He gonna text me back about the Packers. And I'm like, man, I'm not from Wisconsin. So anyway, so it was my dad, man. It was, my brother was older than me. My dad coached him, and it was literally just going up to the gym. You know how we all did when they was playing, and when it was a timeout, you on the court playing a quick game of one-on-one with whoever else is there, and practicing whatever, and then and constantly being in the gym. And then, I guess furthermore, it was the idols. I was born in 89. So I was 9 when MJ hit that shot against Byron Russ. KG was popping. And for me, I think it was just the aura. The NBA back then was just different. Like the commentators were just as much a part of the game as the players. Like Bob Costas, man, when he said, "It's the last time you'll ever see," like all that stuff. But that's a long answer. Short answer is my pops, my family, just watching the game, going to Timberwolves games when we do it. And and falling in love with it.
And environment, we're going to touch on that in a second too, actually right now. So you grew up in Minneapolis, not always a basketball hotbed. What was the competition like coming up? And did you ever feel like you had to prove yourself being from that environment?
So nah, because to me it was a basketball hotbed. Like now, guys like Tyus and Jalen and Chet, like they're the culmination of what was already a basketball hotbed. When I was coming up, I was watching Khalid Al-Amin. He won a national championship with Rip Hamilton at UConn, and honestly, he would have played longer in the league. I think that's exactly what you're talking about in terms of psyche, just not understand. If you'd understood journey, but he's one of the best to ever do it. Troy Bell was a lottery pick, two-time Big East Player of the Year, lottery pick in 03, the greatest draft of all time. Like you went overall, he had knee problems. Chris Humphrey was here. We had guys like Rick Ricker. We had a ton of talent, obviously Kevin McHale, but so the competition was always good. I would say the environment was more like Midwest culture is, I don't want to say it's like mediocre. That's not the right word, but Midwest it's a great place to live. People are it's a great place to raise a family. It's not rooted in the flash or the competition or I don't know what's the right word I'm looking for. It's not rooted in like
the glitz and the glamour and like the spotlight.
Well, even so, I would say, like, I'll put it like this: when the Timberwolves and the Vikings, they go to like the conference finals or the conference championship, that's a great season, right? Like, and people are happy. People are disappointed when they lose, but that's a good season. Whereas, in LA, New York, like you expect to not just win 3, 4, 5 times. So I would say that the competition was great, but there's not necessarily that hunger generally for like great thoughts.
Okay.
Right. And you see, like if you look at any Midwest guard, a lot of us play the same. Like even Jalen he's athletic, so he stands out. Jalen Suggs, but he still he's solid. He's solid. Tyus, ultimate solid, right? Like Trey, Khalid, I go on and on and on. So when I went outside of this environment, what it taught me was like, not to say we weren't dogs, it was different. It was different. It was more in your face. It was more like just direct. Yeah. But the competition that it was fire up here, man. It was always someone tough. We had dudes like Kajoa Halegbe, went to UNI, big strong guard. Like you had to it's almost like a football game sometimes.
So did you have any specific moment that made you say, you know what, I think I could take this all the way, or I can at least be a good basketball player?
Ooh, yeah, definitely. Honestly, for me, I knew I could take it a long way in high school, but for me, when I really, really knew was kind of going into my sophomore year, really at the beginning of my sophomore year, where I was struggling, and my dad pretty much texted me and told me, for lack of a better term, like, stop being. So pretty much a game in Maui, they pretty much text me and pretty much stop being a
Oh, he hooped too?
No, he did not. He did not.
Play in
That's actually, he played baseball in high school, but that was actually a big part of my journey, and a big part of what drives me is that he didn't play. Is that I never had, like, he was very smart. He's in finance, very smart, but he's not like basketball equipped in terms of how the business works and things like that, right? Going into, I had a game against Gonzaga where I finally was like, all right, my freshman year was okay, and I hooped. I had like 20. They had guys like Elias Harris. We played Derek Williams the next day in Maui, and I just had a good turn. I was like, all right, I could do this. Like, I know I could do this, right? And it wasn't like a thought now. It was like, it was a proven, all right, I can.
So during your high school years, you never had that feeling where like, man, I feel like I'm one of the best at this stage. If I continue going, who knows? You never had that feeling?
I had the thought where it was always a thought, and like, I know I can do this. Right? There were moments where it could come out, but it was never like a sustained feeling where I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, I need to be a top 10, top 20 pick, right? Or I could do that, because I was in high school, I was able to play against, it was almost like eye-opening for me at times in high school. Like Isaiah Thomas, we played him in, I don't even know I'm finna tell this story, but we played Isaiah Thomas in Peace Jam, and he was cooking. He was a little bit older than us now. He reclassed, but it was like in them, and he came out, he hit about 9 straight. I had 2 fouls, and our coach Pulley, Antoine Harris Love, checked in Marcus Williams, who played in the NFL for about 5 years. I think led the league in picks, good athlete. And Isaiah had about quick 12 on him. He had 21 in the first quarter and a half. And out trouble. He got to 20. He looked over at the bench. He said, "You better put him back in." I was that. So for me, it was actually like I had a lot of moments where I was like, "All right, I got to get better. I got to get better." Right. Then there was a culmination of like, "All right, I can do this now. I still got to get better, but now it's like I can do this." So
Yeah.
not in high school where I was like, "Nah, I need to get drafted." College though, for sure.
Okay. So were you like were you a gym rat or were you a natural basketball player? You know, those perfectionists that their skills blossom because they're so consistent, or did it just come natural for you? Let me guess first though. I would guess that you are a gym rat, perfectionist. You want to work on your skills. You're that guy.
100%. 100%. There's again, I think that's part of like the Midwest culture. Like, this is my opinion. I don't think there's a lot of just naturally skilled guys that come out of the Midwest. There's some, but like, especially at the guard spot, I think a lot of us are, hey, hone your craft, go at it. As great as Tyus is, I would say he's really skilled. It's not to say we're not skilled, but like, it's always, let me be in here, 6 a.m., put these hours in. There's one guy we had here who's actually one of my best friends, Anthony Tucker. He's probably one of the more naturally like smooth, gifted, like can really shoot the ball, and he's not super athletic, but he's just skilled. So I was definitely a gym rat. I was definitely a gym rat in the sense that, yeah, I had to work at it. And then, again, it's just not the culture. Like, I think if I would have gone to the West Coast, then my skill set would have evolved in a different way. And that same, it's like, and I love my time in Wisconsin, but it's again, you're a kid. It's about the way you develop.
Yeah, exactly. So did you have any basketball role models, somebody that you model your game after, or did you have like a few guys that you put together?
Man, well, back then, it wasn't, we didn't have NBA League Pass, so it was, you could only really watch who's in your region for the most part. So I watched guys growing up like KG, obviously, but at my position, it was Terrell Brandon, it was Chauncey Billups, Steve Cassell as I got into high school. So all my game was heavy mid-range, that influence, right? And like everybody loved Iverson. I wasn't really an Iverson guy like that. Like, I like the Lakers. And we also grew up in the era of the big, the power forward, right? I think it's always interesting and fascinating to me, like who, and now maybe different because of the access to games and watching. Yeah. But in our era, it was like you modeled your game after who you had access to, right? So, and I even have a theory that I think NBA teams, they attract guys or sign guys to a certain degree that fit the culture of which their team, with which their market is in, right? Like I always say, like Luka and Trey, that trade didn't happen because of talent. Like Trey was better culture of it for the city of Atlanta, and Luka was there as Dallas. So, and I just always think that players like having that awareness and knowledge, I think is important to decision making.
Okay. So let's move ahead to your varsity years. At the end of it, you're Mr. Basketball. So obviously you were an elite player. Take us back to your freshman year, the early years, maybe your sophomore year. Did you hit the ground running, or how was that? Were you in competition for your spot? Take us through that, the mindset of that time.
What's crazy is I just sorry, we can hear my little man in the background. But I actually just met with my high school coach today, and he was really good at reading me. He was a businessman that retired and coached us. My freshman year, he actually put me on the sophomore team to start the season, and I was mad as hell, like I couldn't, like, why? And he put one of my good friends, another freshman, he started game one, but he was 6'7", he was taller, and I think maybe he thought I wasn't ready yet, but I think he also did it to challenge me and like kind of test me a little bit. But I went and killed sophomore, then like the first game went to JV, the next game killed that, and then by game 7 I was starter. So it was, and for me that was again one of those moments. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna play in the league moment, I'm good enough for that, but it was like, okay, like trying at the situation, right? So, and then I ended up averaging like 10, whatever, my freshman year. So didn't hit the ground running for sure, but definitely got in the mix really quick.
When would you say you was honing that mix though? Junior year, sophomore year?
Sophomore year, really into freshman year. we just had a lot of seniors and all that. But like there were some moments in the we had section finals up here in Minneapolis. It's the game to go to state. We lost. And there were some moments where I didn't even play that well, but there were moments where I was like, all right, this is easy. Like, this is really easy. And I knew that summer coming up, it was just a matter of time in the gym. And we had about 7 seniors leaving, which I don't know would have mattered either way. But next year it was like, all right. So next year I averaged like 22 and like 22, 7 and 7. I was really close to triple doubles a lot when I was a kid. I got close to the first one ever at Wisconsin, but that was my game. Like we played fast in high school. Like I got it off the rim, through the head. We would run the wings. So when I chose Wisconsin, like I didn't really know what the swing was, to be honest, but it was sophomore year when when I really started taking off.
So what was your work ethic like at the time? Like, so a lot of people say, they worked out before school, obviously practice. What was the extra work you were putting in, if any?
Man, you remember the jump shoe soles? Jump pulls? Yeah, so that was yeah. I used to watch cartoons and be on the jump soles or whatever they're called. That was part of it. And then it was just, we played, but it was a lot of playing. I went up to a spot called 43 Hoops where Chris Carr, who, I don't know if people remember him, but he finished second to Kobe in the dunk contest the year you were. So it was a lot of cones, chair drills. I wasn't an early riser, so it was after school and late at night, and I would get there early. But I think I realized my work ethic really wasn't nothing about my junior year. I started working out with Trent Tucker, who played for the Bulls and the Knicks, and he was a shooter, so he didn't really play like me. But the way we trained was just run and shoot, run and shoot, run and shoot. Even the off the dribble stuff was start at the top of the key, was unique, awkward drills like dribble to the corner, change direction, come back up, pull up 3, and it was just straight conditioning and shooting. So when he started putting me through that, I was like, all right, like maybe not necessarily the drills that are the most important, but the effort and the constant level of consistency of like, you got to do this 5-6 times a week, twice a day sometimes. That was around my junior year.
Okay, so you were working hard, the work ethic was there. What were you like as a student during this time, putting in all that work? What about your studies? I would think you were a good student though.
Yeah, school was easy though. School was easy to me, man. It was I like Spanish class. I got good grades. I probably had like a 3.8, whatever.
Like a 3.8, whatever. That's amazing.
Yeah, but school was like it was natural. It was just memorization for me. And my pops, when he was a kid, like my pops was a nerd. He's in fine ed, so I mean that in the best way. He used to make me memorize like all 50 U.S. presidents at one point. I used to know, all I guess at that time it would have been 39, 40, something like that. And he used to make me memorize the capitals of all 50 states. Like if you ask me any capital of any state right now,
I could still remember all of them.
I could still at least 48 there may be, but you could try me. I could still remember probably any one, and it just with high school it helped with memorization.
Yeah, shout out to your pops, man.
Yeah.
So, okay, going into your senior year, Mr. Basketball year, what was the preparation like that year? Was it different than any other year? Did you step it up? And also, were you committed by then?
Yeah. So I answered the second one. I committed early. I hated the recruiting process. Couldn't stand it. Like, I thought that coaches were, I don't want to say they're all full of it, but like it's a spiel. I could see very early that it was like, you're saying this to me, you're saying this to him, you're saying it. And I was like, for what? So honestly, the reason I chose Wisconsin was because Coach Gard was not a head coach, Greg Gard. He would sit on the phone with me for 45 minutes at a time, and he would shoot it straight. I would tell, I want to play in the league. Well, if you want to play in the league, it's a long shot, but this is what you got to do. This is what you got to work on. This is what you got to work on to play at Wisconsin. And he would talk to me for so long where I would get tired of asking questions, and I would put the phone down and be like, bruh. So, but to me, what it showed me was he was genuine. And for me at that time, it wasn't so much about like basketball fit rather than like, hey, I know what I'm gonna get from you. And Coach Ryan, I knew he was gonna be there. They were just solid people, and I could figure the rest out. Like I said, from freshman year, put a challenge in front of me, I'll figure the rest out, right? So I committed before my junior year even started. After my sophomore year, went to a football game. Coach Gard, one of the best dudes, still to this day as the head coach, made a ton of money, obviously winning games, still one of the most genuine human beings. And then other than the senior year was different for me because I used to train with my friend Anthony Tucker, who I told you about. We would go to three hoops, and he was really my competition for Mr. Basketball and Gatorade year and Metro Player. We have 4, so you out every day in the fall before the season start. So I saw everything that he was doing, and I made sure that just off principle, if he went for an hour and 15 minutes, I'm going for an hour and 30 minutes. He get on the bike. The only thing I did, the recumbent bike back in the day, we would do that. He would do 30 minutes. I'm doing 30 minutes in a second because I hated that bit. Everything else, I'm making sure that everything he does, I'm doing it plus a little bit more because that was an advantage to me. Like if I can outwork you mentally, I know that I'm gonna make something happen.
Man, that mindset, like I told Marcus Hatton, because he had a lot of players that I interview that's made it to high levels. They had that same mindset and focus, because I believe in basketball and making it to the NBA, there's this weeding out process that happens beneath it all. So like when you lose focus for just 1 second or just one moment, like your college years, you're just slacking off, whatever. It's hard to get that back and get back on track. You having that focus from such a young age and continuing to have that, like I really admire that. And I see that as a trait in elite basketball players. Okay, that's interesting that you chose Wisconsin so early, knowing that you were going to have to come in and not get the ball put in your hands right away, So how was that freshman year having to play behind guys that were there before and who had more opportunity than you?
It was cool because I planned for it. My dad helped me plan for it, which in hindsight might have been a little bit of a detriment because I think it curbed my tenacity a little bit, but it also, you could argue that either way, right? Like I think it prepared me for mentally, whereas if he didn't do that, then maybe I would have gone in and had a bad attitude and been like, you know what, instead of trying to do what I needed to do and stay focused. My dad put together a spreadsheet, not even a spreadsheet, a whiteboard. He said, look, Trayvon, he was going to be a sophomore. It's a sophomore. You're going to be a junior when you come in. Jason Bohannon's going to be a junior. When they're seniors, though, all these 3s and 4s, they're leaving. So you might be able to play as like the 6th man or start, whatever. When they leave your junior year, if you average, he literally said this to me, he said you average 3 2s, 2 3s, and 5 free throws, you can be All-American. And crazy. I average 3 2s, 5 free throws as All-American.
Mapped out.
Like mapped out from like an analytical standpoint, but it was I believe in visualization and all that. But anyway, it wasn't so hard because of that, because I knew what to expect and I knew what my plan was to make things.
That guidance is so important, and I continue to hear your father behind you, guiding you every step of the way, and that's an underrated thing. Of course, as a player, you can't choose to have that. Like you're either blessed with it or you're not. Some people are self-guided, and that's admirable as well. So that's dope. All right, so you get through that first year, your second year, more responsibility. How did it feel that year? Did you feel anything change? Just your position on the team, your status in school, your attitude?
I'm a huge believer in the young generation just planning, because this was kind of the second part of the plan. I think when you plan and you visualize, like you kind of reel some of that stuff in, and I started out 6 man, like I mentioned earlier, started slow, but then after that Gonzaga game, I was like, all right, let's do it. And then I had a couple games where unfortunately my guy John Lure, he got hurt, but it was opportunity for me. So I started starting come Big Ten season. A couple games against Purdue, I was hooping. There was actually one game in particular where, like, physically it was a Gonzaga game, but mentally I broke through this kind of barrier internally where I was like 0-6 against Michigan, and I was 0-8 against Penn State. Penn State had Taylor Battle, but we didn't lose to Penn State. We didn't lose at the Kohl Center, and so I missed 14 straight shots, and we was down by 8 with like a minute and a half or minute 50 left. I got a pass, and I was like, you know what, man, I ain't based. Keep down, let it rock. Hit a 3, cut it to 5, come back down, hit another 3, cut it to 2, get a layup, tie the game, cut it to and tie it. We ended up going in. I ended up getting a stop on Taylor to send it to OT. And then in OT, I think I finished, I had 0 points. I think I finished with can't remember exactly, it might have been like 21 or whatever it was. So I had 21 in 6.5 minutes. And that was like, all right, I knew physically that I could do it, but that to me, I was like, all right, I got a different gear if I can lock in, right? Or if I can, that, you know what I'm saying? If I can fight through that, especially at Wisconsin, where every possession matters. And I was like, all right, the rest is cake.
Man, so Taylor Battle, how was those battles, those matchups?
We played in the era, man, where the game transition kind of right in front of our eyes. It went from like the Terrell Brandons and the Chauncey Billups as point guards to the D Roses and the Russell West. Like D Rose was MVP my All-American year, so that was happening. And again, to have a plan and the foresight, the league was shifting. So I always say, me and Taylor, guys like us, we had to be the best player on our teams, where we probably, from a league standpoint, would have been better served being the second or third best player. And then playing now, like how you see TJ McConnell plays, like just from a career longevity, money making standpoint, you go in and be a backup, like, and I would have been anyway, but if I would have played like high energy pickup, facilitate, and I would get paid to do that, that's easy, right? So, but I say that because Taylor was a guy where he was so cold, he was so quick, you couldn't stay in front of him, he could shoot, he could do everything, and he was a nightmare, man. He was one of the toughest matchups, if not the toughest matchup. Him and Dimitri McCamey in the Big Ten for me, and I still say to this day, I guarded D Rose and Eric Gordon in high school. Like, those two guys were tougher for me. Taylor was so small, and me both quick and strong as hell, right? Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. Taylor was cold, man. He definitely should have got
So any of those point guard matchups, did you feel like, wow, he's on another level than I am? Like,
so going into my junior year, I started winning those matchups pretty consistently. Sophomore year, I was winning them. Taylor was, I think, at another level my sophomore year. But there was guys like Lewis Jackson who were really good players, right? Like, who I took pride in trying to score on, because that was his thing. Like, he picked us. Like, you can go score. If you go get 25 on guys like Lewis and Aaron Craft, it was like, all right, like, especially in the Big Ten with limited space, but Dimitri McCamey was the one where it was like, I feel heavily.
he was cold, and he was big too.
Big, he could pass, he was athletic, like, he was crafty, like, he was, I know, like, he kind of had some stuff happen at the end of his senior year, but he's another one of them dudes. I can't believe he didn't have skill-wise, a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year career in the league.
Okay, so your All-American year, take me through that. What was that experience like, being at the top of your game, top level, one of the best in college basketball, hands down? Take me through that year, man. What was the preparation, first of all? And just what was the feeling of being that recognized, I guess?
It was amazing, man. I remember being on First Take, watching myself on First Take while being on First Take. I put the TV on back in the day. It was a whirlwind, man. But it was amazing. Like, that summer going in, I was up at 6. I was working out at 6, 11, and 5 every single day. And again, part of that was because based on the plan, like, I knew like this was clear opportunity. So that was the repetition. And then just, there were games where, like, the Ohio State game I had, obviously, is one that sticks out to Wisconsin fans or Big Ten fans, what have you. But there were games that year where I was like, man, this is that was really, I said sophomore year, but then it was like, I was at the point where, man, if I don't get drafted, I don't know what's going on. Easy. I was making, like, there's a stat where my percentage shooting contested shots higher than uncontested. I had one of to this day, I believe, still best offensive seasons from an efficiency standpoint in college basketball history. And I think the thing that I probably get bitter about is, like, I think at Wisconsin, we get knocked for playing slow. But my opinion is, if you could play in a slow offense with limited spacing, then playing at pace is easy, especially with better players. So, but yeah, no, it was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. I wish that I didn't get injured.
Okay, what was your best game that year from your perspective? Not necessarily the one you scored the most, or
Ohio State was up there, but that was more like a second half. If we talking about wire to wire, like, best game, I had a game against Minnesota at the crib where I was Michigan State. I think I had like 30, and like, I'll never forget, Austin Thornton was guarding me at the top of the key, and it was a late shot clock, and I hit him with a little pull-up 3, and I'll never forget, he just turned around and looked at Izzo and was like, gave him one of those, and Izzo was just kind of like, gave a shrug, and I was like, yeah.
So, nice. Okay, so I want to ask you this question, right? 18 points per game, 18.1, I think, or a little bit over 18, almost 5 assists. You shot over 40. You shot over 40% from 3. How many attempts did you have that year?
I believe about 6 a game, 5 or 6.
40% from 3. Led your team in scoring, All-American. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave after that year?
Listen, if I had, it might have not mattered if I left. If I had a $5 for every time someone asked me that, it was a lockout that year, right? So if you want the whole background, there was a lockout. And like I told you, my dad was a great planner, but he planned from an analytical standpoint of like success. Getting a degree was never a question to him. My dad is he's from Jackson, Mississippi. He was born in 1950. He's the only person in his family with a college degree and his MBA. College was about school to him. And I enjoyed the college process. I really did. But and then there was the lockout. So the feedback we got was, hey, you can go anywhere from, 20 to 45. Part of it was, if you go 45 and you got to go overseas in a lockout with no training camp. The other part was we just didn't know that if you go top, 30 to 40, that's like damn near being a first round pick from a success rate standpoint, which is why I'm so big on trying to help kids navigate and plan and understand the business of it. But I would just say, man, my dad was same thing. Part of the plan was to finish school, and it was an oversight, as simple as that. It was maybe some delusion where, you did it this year, you'll do it again next year, right? You'll do the same thing, and not understanding that 6'2" guards are commodities. Especially I wasn't I was a good athlete, but I wasn't a crazy athlete. So it was all as a culmination of all of those things. And now another thing I'm probably bitter about is I never got you had to make a decision by the end of March, early April. You didn't get to go to the combine and do all that. But in hindsight, I wish I would have tested the waters. I wish I would have just done it. But everything works out for a reason, or that's what they say.
So do you think you were ready at that point?
So I would go back to, that's why I think the plan, that's where it stunned me a little bit, because the plan was always you're going to go to school for 4 years and get drafted, because that's how my dad saw it. That's what he instilled in me. I think I was ready physically, no question. I think mentally, I kind of had it in my head this is what I said, this is how the path goes, right? It's straight. In my head, I was going to be all Big Ten, all American, get to a Final Four, and then I was going to get drafted. I watched too many movies. So physically, no question, I look at the draft class that year, great player like Charles Jenkins went first round from Hofstra, and it's Shelvin got drafted. Shelvin's great, but I think I would have been in that conversation, right? Shelvin, Matt, yeah. So yeah, I looked at it as a linear path, and I looked at it as no, I gotta do this before I go to. And in reality, obviously, that one school ain't going nowhere. You can always get a degree, and you don't always get the fairy's tale ending that you want. But yeah, man, it's definitely a tough decision when you look back on it.
So senior year, if someone looks at your stats, they would say you had a down year. How do you feel about that statement?
Yeah, I felt like I had a down year, but I think that it's one of them things where, we always talk about injuries. After my junior year, I had an ankle surgery going into the season that I thought was good, but my whole senior year, I was just never quite right. I got 5-6 MRIs on my knee, and they kept telling me there's nothing wrong with your knee. There's nothing wrong with your knee. And I was like, there's something wrong with my knee. I couldn't move the same. I didn't elevate. I'm a jump shooter. I couldn't elevate the way I wanted to, and my numbers dropped. And a lot of people was, the teammates left. I was like, nah, I was locked in for that senior year. And come to find out, maybe the year after my first year pro, I had it's called a cam impingement, or I needed FAI surgery, which is a surgery that Isaiah Thomas had before he went to the Cavs. We flagged him. So Isaiah Thomas had that surgery, and the Cavs flagged him. I knew it was going to be tough for him to get back as a small guard, because it knocks off your center of gravity, right? And when I would sit at home on the couch my senior year, I would try and move my knee out, and it would always it would just get stuck. My hip would just get stuck. And at the time, that surgery was only 8 to 10 years old, so it wasn't really something that they was looking for. So essentially, my senior year, I played injured my whole season. Then at the end of the year, I ended up having a shoulder tear. And back then, you just played through injury. It wasn't no question. It wasn't my assistant coach once told me going into my junior, I had a little foot thing, and he was like, get healthy. And then, when you're healthy, you can play with anybody. When you're not, it's tough. And then my senior year, it was just he said this to me, but everybody kept telling me, you're healthy. And I couldn't figure it out until later on. So I just wasn't quite right. So it was a down year, still All-American, but.
What was your NBA draft process like? You already said they didn't have any combines or anything like that, but what were you hearing about your draft stock? Were there any workouts going on? Pre-draft process like for you?
The hype had died a little bit because I had expectations of being here, being the first team, preseason first team All-American. And I came in somewhere around here as an All-American honorable mention, right? So what I learned very quickly is that hype is real, and that, and not right or wrong, but it's like you got to strike while the iron's hot. That's just life. So I was projected anywhere from like late first to undrafted going after the year I had. And I think, once they had seen me for 4 years and I probably showed a regression and didn't really say much about the injury, that it was like, oh, okay, maybe that was a little bit of a outlier year. But I still had 18 workouts. Like I would tell kids now, be more strategic about how you work out, especially when you're a junior, senior, like these teams have seen you. Think about where, study it yourself. Don't just rely on your agent to pick where you work out. But yeah, I had a lot of action in terms of pre-draft, and I had a lot of opportunity. But again, like even summer league, I didn't get drafted. I had a crazy story. My homeboy Trevor Mbakwe came over to my parents' house at the time to watch the draft, and Jeff Taylor got drafted 31. And they said, Adam Silver was the deputy commissioner at the time. I think he said, like, with the 31st pick, the Bobcats select Jeff Taylor. My boy Trev was a little tipsy, and he jumped up in the air. I let Demis show ass down, man. So anyway, my agent called me about like pick. He said the Bucks at 43 was a possibility. They passed up. He called me about 56 and was like, it's not gonna happen. So I was a training camp. I went to summer league with the Hawks and had an opportunity, but again, I was never rooting right after that.
Okay, you decided to go overseas. What was your mindset like when the draft ended? Were you down about it? Were you still hopeful that you're still gonna either make a life for yourself as a basketball player either way?
Well, my problem was, I knew I could make a life, but I think my problem was when I went overseas, again, I was still hurt. I still hadn't figured out at this point in my rookie year that my hip was messed up. And I turned down training camp with the Hawks because they didn't really offer much money. So when I was over there, I didn't fully embrace overseas until later in my career, which was a problem. And I was always had my eye to the States. I killed my rookie year. We went to the finals. We had a really good team. We were young. We were projected to finish like 10th in the Italian league. We went to the finals. Toronto, Brian Colangelo really liked me, wanted to bring me in on a partial, or at least that's what they were talking about. He got fired. Masai came in. Masai wasn't really rocking with me like that, so that kind of went away. Still played summer league with Toronto, but I was really just like, man, I'm gonna kill overseas and I'm gonna go back to the league. And I don't think that's necessarily the right mindset when you're over there. My plan had veered off path. And now it's almost like I had this desperation of like, how do I get back on track, rather than taking that, all right, let me just embrace this journey.
So was there a point that you embraced the journey while you were over there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think probably my third year in no, let me stop. I would say probably it was late. It's probably my 5th year in Israel. After my rookie year, I was at home and I was dreading going back over there. So I ended up like just having an MRI and found out that's where I needed the hip surgery. So I tried to rehab it. I put it off, ended up having hip surgery my second year, my first hip surgery, my second surgery, third surgery total. And then after I had my third surgery, I was at home and I ended up going to Israel. And Israel was it was a long path to get to embracing it. Israel, I embraced being over there because they love Americans. It was a fun place to be. I wasn't locked in. I was locked in on like, hey, how do I enjoy my life? Because my first 2 years just weren't that enjoyable. So it was like, I'm trying to enjoy my life and hoop. And it was like, you gotta be locked in, right? So I just wasn't. So my season in Israel was straight. I went to Berlin to play. We were supposed to be EuroLeague. They ended up losing in the semifinals, so they dropped down to EuroCup. After I signed, I played for Sasha Obradovic, who coached Monaco. That year, Sasha's really demanding, so I was locked in, but again, he kind of killed the joy of the game a little bit. I couldn't find that balance of like joy and being locked in. My escape was like, how do I have fun? And then I ended up having another hip surgery on the other side at the end of that year, same hip surgery. And then I sat out for a little bit, ended up coming back to Israel. And in Israel, when I was there, I was getting healthy, probably the best I felt in years, and I was excited. And I tell people this story, they laugh at me. I ended up getting food poisoning and my hips was locked up, and I don't know what it was, but my hips just locked up. And after that, I was still to this day, still haven't been able to move. I want to move. But I came home, I went to Turkey, and then I was like, you know what? I was kind of like, damn, I was kind of feeling bad for myself. And then after Turkey, I went to France again, went to the team a little late around Thanksgiving because I almost retired after that Turkey year. It was outright like, you know, this is I had 7 surgeries in 7 years of that. So hip, ankle, shoulder, nose, groin, and then so 6. And then I went to France, and you know, it was about the money at that point. And I was playing well in France, and being like, I got a call from Tony Parker, and this is probably around my 7th year after in France. I don't know how I played well. Got a call from Tony Parker, and ended up signing in Asvel in EuroLeague. And when I played EuroLeague, that's really when I truly embraced being overseas, because the joy came back, the crowds over there, the level of play. I didn't really understand that's what EuroLeague was, right? And I had offers before that, but I always pooed them. I was always like, NBA. Man, it's a really long-winded answer, I know, but probably my 7th, 8th year over there when I got to EuroLeague is when I really truly embraced like, hey, this is where I'm at. This is far too much.
So how many years did you play overseas? 12 years with all those injuries and surgeries. Your resilience, man. Don't take that for granted. Like, I respect that. That's crazy. Just, I didn't know that you had 7. The fact that you were still able to perform is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I told myself after Turkey, or after really in France, the first year with Limoges before Asvel, I kind of told myself like, I can't. I almost retired. I was like, I can't run out that. Like, I gotta show I can still do something. Even my year and year 2 in EuroLeague, I still couldn't move right, but I was like, you know, my teammates used to make fun of me because we would go out, and I'd be stretching in the bathroom. They would come in there and be like, yo, man, if you don't get your like, because I was desperate to figure out like what was going on. But yeah, I had a lot of bad injury luck in it, and it messed with my mental for a long time. And I've never really, a lot of people other than my people around me obviously know that. But
so at what point did you play in Japan?
Yeah, so I went after Asvel. I got to EuroLeague. I was supposed to go back. That was also the COVID year, but the contractual situation just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And then I went to Japan because they offered a good amount of money, and I was about 30, 31. I was like, you know what, let me just do what I got to do. And if it wasn't EuroLeague, I didn't want to be in Europe. I was like, let me just go somewhere. Let me get a check and embrace, you know, every city that I'm in and love it. But you know, overall, my professional career, I was never really healthy, and I don't think I ever regained for an extended period of time like I did from that high school to college period. Like I couldn't work out in the summer. I was hurt every summer, so I never got that ability to lock in and figure out my injuries.
Okay, so obviously you played basketball your whole life. It shaped you into the player or the person you are, the man you are today. Now that you say basketball is done, you're officially retired, what are some of your transition plans? Just as a normal guy now.
Yeah, right. So broadcasting is a big one for me. I love the game. I told you at the beginning, Bob Costas, Kevin Harlan, legend, those guys, Mike Tirico, those guys are just as much a part of sports to me as Michael Jordan is. I used to commentate my own video games when I was a kid, and my cousin used to make fun of me. Broadcasting stuff with Big Ten Network, FS1, NBC. I'm a part of a business development team at Free Game. So business development strategy advisor at Free Game, which is a management company, or brand management, athlete representation company. So not myself an agent, but you know, can like to advise and grow, and a big part of what they're doing, what we're doing over there is trying to help kids strategize, right? So part of my role is helping develop that process internally.
Give them that same guidance that you got to your father, that same, you know, plan.
100%, and self-awareness and self-planning and developing a protocol or a process around that I think, you know, every athlete deserves that type of care. So that means a lot to me. So those 2 things, and then maybe do some public speaking here and there as well.
So my last question. So you're a point guard, elite point guard. Don't take that for granted. People still care about what you did at the college level, at the professional level to this day. As a point guard, I want you to give me your top 5 point guards of all time, and then why number 1 is number 1.
Someone just asked me this question. I saw DeMarcus Cousins going on about it. I'll go 5. I'll go backwards. I'll go 5. I'll go 5 is Jason Kidd. because you just want only one. I only got
Yeah, you only have to, but you can. I'd love to hear what you got to say about Kidd.
So yeah, Jason Kidd, just because again the way he controls a game, his ability to guard, impact with his size, pass, wasn't a great shooter, but he pushed tempo at the right time, always like in your face. And he was really one of the few guys that really got close to winning as like the best player on your team as a point guard. Like I actually think the point guard position is overstated because I think it's hard to win as with the point guard as your best player. But from the NBA is marketed guards, right? There hasn't been a ton. I don't think. Are we calling Steph?
Yeah, we gotta call him a point guard. Got to.
All right. Well, 4 would be Chris Paul then. Chris, because I think the point guard position for what it is, I think he's the best at it. Like the position. And when I think of a point guard, I think you can shoot, dribble, pass, you can score it. All 3 levels. Your skill set is equipped, and then you know what to do and when to deploy that skill set at the right time. So I think he's a perfect example of he was always the best player on his team or one of. Where if he would have got traded to the Lakers,
Oh man,
you can't convince me if they don't win a couple titles. And the entire narrative around Chris Paul then changes, right? So in terms of playing, but you also have to consider rating as well. But so in terms of the position, I think he and Isaiah Thomas, who's my number 3, are the best at position and doing that, deploying all 3 level shooting, passing, dribbling, understanding, right? Like I gotta take over a game with scoring right now, cool. Or I got Joe Dumars over there, I got Blake Griffin, I gotta get them involved, and to be able to, the timing of it is everything to me, right? The understanding game, time, and score. So he's 4. Isaiah's 3 because he's really the only undersized point guard. We're calling Steph one, but only undersized point guard that has been like the best player on his team and won a title. And I think he has some of the attributes of Chris Paul. Steph, the no-brainer. I mean, obviously 4-time champ, and the Magic is 1 because he's a point guard who's 6'9". Like he's got something that everybody else in the group doesn't have. It's just that height and his ability he's a point guard who can play center like LeBron-ish. So it's like you just can't compete with that. And then ability, like he's one of the few players. Steph's up there too, but like he's almost one of the few players that I can think of that like charms his way into the game. Like his charisma, so
and that's an underrated element of a top point guard too, because you have to have that to get guys to follow you and galvanize around you, So he had that leadership and he had the charisma, he had the mouthpiece. So it's like, man, he had all of it.
It's not a lot of guys nowadays, especially, but ever, that like is gonna run the wing with the excitement, and if it don't come to them, you still gonna be like you still, hey, what's going on? He had all that. It's showtime, right? And some of that's marketing, but he was dope.
He was definitely that. Imagine. I'd like to ask you this one question. I know it's hypothetical, but if he played in this era, do you think, because he was never a 3-point shooter, right? What type of player do you think he'd be in this era?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, the answer is probably like Luka or LeBron. Like, if we being honest, he probably already training that way. And it's like the MJ documentary, when he's always like, oh, and I took that personally, and everybody go crazy because it's MJ. I personally, I think you mentioned this earlier, every high level basketball player has that in them. In practice, my teammates used to say off when I was shooter. I remember that to this day. This kid, Dan Fay, I'd be like, I would look at him every time. And like, I say that to say that Magic, like them type of dudes, they figure that with that talent and that mentality, you just figure it out. Like,
no, for sure.
Yeah, it's tough to say, but I'll probably go with them.
JT, man, I can't lie. This was a dope interview. I appreciate you so much. Your basketball knowledge and intelligence, and the way you're able to recall these things about I know it's your journey, but how vivid you make it seem. I think it's going to be very inspirational for players to watch you speak about basketball. So I just want to say I thank you again for sitting down with me, man. I know you're a busy man, just retired. You know, you got a lot to do, kiddo in the background. So enjoy your day, and I just want to say thank you for sitting with me.
Man, it's an honor to come, man. I've been watching you from afar for some time now. So what you're doing, keep doing it, man. And I
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
you.
Yes, sir.
Really do.
All right.